episode of For the First Time in Forever, the show that tries to fill the gaps in all of our watch lists. Last week I had the pleasure of being joined by my good pal Dave Tome, and we spoke about 12 Angry Men and Chinatown, and you can give that a watch by clicking the link in the description below. But this week it's back to the original format with just a little old me, so it's time to don your best Stetson, take a trip up the mountains, and fall in love. This is Brokeback Mountain. Wait a second. I am going to be talking about spoilers for this film, so consider this your warning now.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Then why don't you just let me be, huh? Because of you, Jack, that I'm like this. Nothing. I'm nowhere. Oh.
Now, Brokeback Mountain is directed by Ang Lee, who I think has one of the most bizarre track records of any Hollywood director. He's made some Academy Award and critical darlings, the likes of Crouching Tiger, This, Life of Pi, but he's also made some horrendous train wrecks of movies, including Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, last year's spectacular misfire that was Gemini Man, and Hulk. But Brokeback was considered by many to be a real testament of Lee's talent behind the camera, earning numerous nominations across the award season and picking up 3 Oscars, one for Best Director, one for Best Score, and the other for Best Screenplay. It also became a major cultural icon due to the fact that it was a mainstream film depicting homosexual love, something that, when it came out in the mid-2000s, it wasn't necessarily a taboo topic, but it wasn't overly common. I mean, the press just referred to it as the gay western, which is such a major oversimplification of what the film is actually about. The story of Brokeback Mountain follows 2 cowboys, Ennis Del Mar, played by Heath Ledger, and Jack Twist, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. They meet when they're both hired to herd some sheep across Brokeback Mountain, and during their time together, they begin to form a bond that transforms from friendship into something far more intimate. The film then follows their lives over the course of almost 2 decades as the lovers reconnect, trying to keep their love for one another a secret. There is no denying the beauty of this film in numerous senses of the word. For starters, the cinematography is gorgeous, especially when we're in the first act, where we're deep in the American wilderness and you are just surrounded by beauty. Rodrigo Prieto, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is the DP, and he captures the serenity, the tranquility of being in this place where you feel distant from everyone. You can do your own thing, you can be your own person, and that, I feel, is almost the temptation that allows both Ennis and Jack to be their own person, to reveal their true selves with each other, and that leads them to them falling in love and embracing one another. Ang Lee's direction is pretty solid as well. I mean, it's far more restrained than any of his newer films currently, because now it just feels like he's just playing around with new technology that may or may not work, and you end up getting stuff like this. And the 2 central performances are ultimately what keeps you invested in this story. Lee made quite the bold choice of casting Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, who, at their point in their respective careers, were the real Hollywood heartthrobs that had amassed quite a significantly large following of young female fans. And so, to cast them in this role, in an almost superficial sense, they would be playing against type. And it should come as no surprise, Heath Ledger is an acting magician, and whilst his life and career were tragically cut short, the performances he was able to give us are truly spectacular. His character of Ennis is easily the most interesting character in the film. The turmoil that his character has to go through, and the way Ledger is so brilliantly subtle and understated, it is literally like watching a master at work. Because once these characters leave the mountain, they then have to kind of return to their normal everyday lives, pick up where they left off. And for Ennis, that's returning to, or at that point it was an engagement, but then he's married to Michelle Williams' character, and he starts a family, all the while having to repress his true feelings, hide his true self, and watching that slowly begin to chip away at his own sanity, his relationship that he has with his family. Michelle Williams as well does a terrific job in this role. The way in which Ledger depicts it all is that it's not one of those Oscar bait type roles that some actors tend to do, where they feel like if they just shout, scream, and then break down in tears, it's a guaranteed Oscar nomination. Here it's so brilliantly quiet, reserved, and a real acting showcase. I mean, it's really no wonder that he was nominated for the Best Lead Actor here. And from having a look at the other nominations and eventually who won, I don't know. I personally, I would have given it to him. As for Jake Gyllenhaal, he definitely gets the far more showy role. He gets the loud arguments as you realise that he's really struggling to keep a rein on who he wishes he could be, how he wishes he could have that relationship with Ennis, but knows that given the life that he lives, the time that he's living in, it just isn't necessarily possible. However, I found Ennis to be a far more interesting character. Jack has his moments. I understand that he's not able to keep as much of a lid on and repress his feelings. That's why we see him go off to Mexico and presumably hire a male escort, and then he has a supposed relationship with David Harbour's character. But for me, there just wasn't that much of a hook that Ennis and Ledger's performance had. It just didn't interest me as much. And unfortunately, this is where some of my criticisms of the film come to light. Whilst I can by no means deny that this is a well-made film, it really lacked any spark that really took my interest, grabbed a hold of it, and just took me along for the ride. The opening act didn't really introduce us to these characters. Instead, Lee and his screenwriters choose to show us about who they are and their personal lives later onto the film, once we return from the mountains, which is a unique choice, but in terms of getting us to know these characters, getting on board with them, and then following them on this eventual journey of not just the American wilderness, but a journey of who they are, a journey of self-discovery, if you will, it wasn't there. I feel like if we had even just maybe 10 minutes just to get some idea of who they are, so we can spend time with these characters before we enter the mountain, I feel like that would have done such a good job of captivating my interest that bit more. And then there's the issue about the passage of time. As I said earlier, the film takes place over the course of like nearly 2 decades, and you don't really feel as if 2 decades have passed by the end of the film. For me, the only real way that I could tell that time was passing would be either when characters would say, "Oh, I haven't seen you in this many years," or you would notice that Anne Hathaway's hair has begun to change, or Jake Gyllenhaal's moustache has begun to grow. And given that these two characters mean such a big deal to each other, and this story spans the course of 20 years, I didn't feel that. And it is also worth mentioning that this movie does move at a snail's pace. It's a slow burn. It's a very methodical film, not choosing to rush any moment, especially when we're on Brokeback Mountain, because that entire sequence has very little dialogue and is mostly just about herding cattle, herding sheep, staring out into the wilderness, and just then embracing one another gradually. But otherwise, the film didn't really do much to grab a hold of my attention, to take me along for this journey. I wasn't as invested as I wish I could have been. There are some undeniably great moments in Brokeback Mountain, especially from Ledger, Gyllenhaal, and Prieto behind the camera. The story is, for the most part, heartfelt and touching, but it isn't anywhere near as captivating as I wanted it to be. I really wanted to fall in love with this movie. I wanted it to knock my socks off. I wanted it to be that Best Picture contender that I know so many people were rooting for it to win, but it really it fell short of my expectations. So, after watching Brokeback Mountain for the first time in forever, it's good, but it's not urgent. So, those are my thoughts on that film. Let me know, have you seen Brokeback Mountain? If you have, what did you think of it? Just a few little updates for you guys. I'm starting kind of a little campaign. I'm sitting at the time of recording on 261 subscribers, and let's begin the road to 300. I'm coming up soon, by around October time, coming up to 2 years on YouTube, and if we could get to 300 subs by then, that would be fantastic. So if you are watching this video, you have enjoyed yourself and you would like to see more, please click that subscribe button and it would mean the absolute world to me. Also, as you saw last week, I had a guest on, and that is something that I want to do every month. For the first Friday of every month, I want to have a guest on, and then we can treat this series a bit more like just a relaxed, chilled out conversation. If that does interest you, you have a film in mind that you desperately want to see for the first time, and you would like to come on the show, then please feel free to drop me a message over on my Twitter, and we can try and sort something out. Anyway, many thanks for watching, and here is a little teaser for next week. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please make sure that you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All the links to my social media accounts, my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and my letterbox are all in the description below. And if you haven't liked the video, what are you still doing here?